All right, we're live.
We're
So
live.
you were just saying you watched Dungeons and Dragons and Super Mario back to back.
Yes, I did. It was fantastic. I loved them.
I really want to see Dungeons and Dragons, but I
It's
haven't.
really good. You should see it. I was hoping you would have so that we could
I
talk about
know,
it.
I know. That's exactly why I want to see it. I don't really want to see it for the film. I just want to see it so we can talk about it.
Well, hopefully you'll want to talk about it because you enjoyed the movie. But
Well, yes, definitely,
and
definitely.
and it's remotivated me to keep reading this. So I'm preparing. Well, for us to play, not only for us to play, but
Oh,
among other things, for us to
I
play.
read. So I told you I reread Watchmen. I read
Yes, that's right.
the hardback of the graphic novel Dune, the first part, and it's so good.
I heard about that. I've seen it in shops, but I haven't. Yeah, obviously haven't read
Yeah,
it.
Davina bought it
You
for me
like
for
to
Christmas. It
reread?
was a
I don't
hardback.
reread things a lot, but it's really rare.
Well, I've never read the graphic novel version. I reread Dune.
But you reread Dune. That's what I was referring to. I think.
Yeah.
And you
And
just
then I
reread
read the next
Watchmen.
two. And yeah, I did. Yeah, do I reread stuff?
I
I
was
suppose I
just
do.
wondering if you did.
I find myself rereading The Alchemist because it's
Okay.
such an easy read. But
Yeah, I've only read it once a long time ago. That I haven't read that one.
well, I'm rereading it with my form at school, and
Okay.
they're all beginning to say stuff like the desert doesn't say anything, or the omens, we have to listen to the omens. I'm like, this is exactly what I wanted.
I don't know if
Listen
you
to
know
the
this,
omens.
but I put in the description title for the episode that I'm sick, so I might be talking deliriously. Deliriously, yeah.
Deliriously. That's okay.
I was told I was speaking in my sleep last night, which doesn't usually happen.
Have you ever?
Spoken in my sleep.
Yeah.
How would
You
I know
wouldn't
if I
know.
ever
You
did that?
wouldn't know, would you?
I only know yesterday because I was with my girlfriend in bed, but partner,
I just realized that
girlfriend.
as I asked the question.
Yeah, most of the time I don't know. How do you know?
Well, apparently I used to grind my teeth in my sleep.
I definitely grind my teeth in my sleep, and I never knew until a dentist said, "What's wrong with your teeth? You grind them." I'm like, "No, not. I don't." Yeah, I know
Yeah.
you do. Look at
Yeah.
that one; it's filed down. Like, really? Yeah. One of my canines is flattened,
I think I've stopped it a
and
lot
of
less.
course I don't wear my like most people. I always forget to wear my what's it called in English?
Retainer.
Retainer.
So I was wearing my retainer a lot because I have to wear one because the gap here
You can see this is
is getting
we're off
bigger.
for an exciting conversation for our non-viewers. Middle-aged conversation.
It's middle age. This is middle aged life. Middle
It
aged
is.
life is. Did you get enough sleep? Why do I feel like crap on a Sunday? Because I ate loads of crap yesterday.
I definitely did because I deserved it because I'm sick. So I had Skittles and ice cream and Doritos.
Are you it's all at the same time?
The ice cream was not part of the plan, but Katie took some anyway.
Yeah, I woke up in the middle of the night having to go to the toilet because my stomach was hurting.
Oh well.
Yeah, and I was worried then. I was like, "Am I going to feel well enough to talk to Willem?" So when I saw your message last night, I was like, "Okay, you'll be fine." Oh no, I feel like rubbish, but I'm fine now. Coffee solves everything. Although you're drinking tea, aren't you?
I am with my brand new. I got a really nice teapot for Christmas, so I'm having
That
green
looks
tea.
cool.
It's nice, right?
And is it proper green tea you're having, or is it like?
What's proper about it?
I mean, like,
it's only just a
oh right, okay, yeah.
sachet. What do you mean by proper?
I
It
meant
comes from
proper,
the
like.
supermarket. It's not. It doesn't come from a tea shop. This one.
Are you getting? Yeah, that's what I meant. Like, are you getting the?
I have very nice tea, but it's Earl Grey, and I
Oh,
didn't
right.
feel like having Earl Grey. I wanted green tea, and the green tea I have comes from the supermarket out of sachets.
You're such a foodie and a fermenter that I thought you'd be making tea properly.
Yeah, I haven't, but it's part of the reason for getting the tea kettle because did not have one, and but yes, it's ironic that I didn't put anything.
Are you? Is that purely for making tea?
The kettle.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess you could put other types of liquids in it. I don't know.
But would you? Wouldn't? Would you?
I don't think so. No, this is for tea. What else would you put in this? I mean, I guess you could put water if you wanted, but it doesn't seem very practical.
I actually don't know. I mean, I know that's a tea kettle, but is it looks
Yes,
like
you
it's
kind of
designed.
know this is a tea kettle, and you know this is for putting tea in. So what else would you put in it?
But is it designed in a particular way that helps the tea? Like it's flat and it's all of that. It must do.
That I don't know. It's a traditional tea kettle. It's cast iron, ceramic cast iron.
I thought you would know this stuff, Willem. I just assumed you would know.
No, I don't. I don't know that much.
Before
Sorry.
we go where I know you want to go, I've got 2 books to show you.
Well, I don't know where I want to go.
I know. I remember I showed you this book
Yes, there's all the prompts.
that I've hardly used. But I got this from my sister's boyfriend, and oh my god,
The Reader's Brain: How Neuroscience Can Make You a Better Writer. Okay.
it's not that hard to read. Into the 2nd chapter, and it's really good. It's really good. It actually goes into some of the brain science for the way what makes something easier, one thing easier to read than something else, and how so much of the advice about making your writing clean and clear and easy to understand is conflicting, misunderstood, not based in science, and just because some writer says it's good.
I'm not sure I got that last part. I'm sorry.
I mean, so when
So
you
most
read,
of the advice is to write clear, simple, concise.
most of the
Is that what you're
advice
saying?
about how to write well
Yes.
isn't based on anything other than the author saying it's good,
Okay.
rather
Which is
than
a lot of common knowledge is that, I think.
yeah. And just because you can write in a grammatically correct way doesn't necessarily mean it's easier to comprehend.
Okay.
So
he's saying, I don't come to you with only my thing. I come to you with the science.
yeah, except look at the name of this person.
Yellow Lees Douglas.
It's a woman. I was like, what kind of name is
Oh,
that?
okay. Yeah, I've never seen that name before. I wouldn't have been able to tell you that's a
I
woman.
know.
But then maybe, but then maybe the they or I don't know.
And she's associate professor of management communication at the University of Florida.
But then what does she have anything to say about neuroscience? That's
She's
where
done
I'm like, you just destroyed all the credibility for me in the book. Management communication. Yeah, okay.
yeah, but in
No,
based
I'm
in neuroscience.
I'm only half kidding.
I know you are. Based in neuroscience, from the reading of neuroscience and brain studies about what happens when you read.
Mm-hmm.
One of the opening points in the book is everyone thought in the 80s computing power is massive. Can we teach computers to read? Turns out reading is actually super complicated. It's really difficult to teach computers to read.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm not very far in, but I'm really enjoying it. And the other thing I did that's very exciting is I wrote a paragraph of dark splendor on the green.
Oh, very good. Awesome. Well done from starting.
So it's
I
going to
haven't
take
touched
shape.
my short story. I did write a couple of things I posted.
You wrote
on
2
LinkedIn.
articles, didn't you? They were in French, weren't they?
One in French, one in English.
I didn't read
One
the English one.
article, one post. Long post, but post.
On your blog or
No, on my LinkedIn that I was meaning to add to my website, but opened my website, realized I need to back up, upgrade, update things because I haven't touched it in a long time, and I just I didn't do that.
There's something else to mention at this point, which is listening to another podcast. Do you know Derek Sivers? Have you heard of him?
I know the name. Wait, is he 538? No, that's not him.
No, that's
Nate. Who's Derek Silver? No, that's Nate Silver.
Nate Silver. Derek Sivers is just entrepreneur. He did a really, really good TED talk, which is less than 5 minutes. The one about the dancing guy. He did that one on the hill.
Maybe I've seen it. I'm not sure.
The guy dancing on the hill, and then everyone starts joining in because they want to feel part of the crowd, and like how to start a movement, blah blah blah. That one. I use that talk quite a lot because it's so short, but it makes a load of really good points.
Yeah.
He talks about something called, which I think you might be interested in, tech independence, which is instead of having to rely on WordPress, Google, all the different things. He goes through, and I'm actually considering doing this because this is how my brain works. You can set up your own server, rent your own space, have it all backed up, so you don't have to use any other services. And he calls it tech independence.
Interesting.
Yeah, and I thought it was interesting because I know you read that book.
Tubes.
The data one about what our search history tells us about us.
Oh yeah.
What's it called?
Everybody Lies.
Everybody Lies, which I haven't started reading it. But it really did make me think about, like, I'm reliant on all these services.
Yeah.
Massively.
And who are interested in your data, resell your data. They're not there to serve you.
Yeah, they're not. Even when they say it's free, it's not free.
Particularly when it's free.
Which one?
Particularly when it's free.
Yeah. Particularly when it's free, it's more likely to be I'm being sold to anyone who wants to pay. So I thought it was a very interesting thing about saying it takes a lot of work, but setting up your own server, having your own space. It does take a lot of work.
But it allows you also to regard, like, where do you want your space to be located, to borrow server space from a smaller company that is local, that, I'm making this up, but perhaps more sustainable, or perhaps possibly. It's not sustainable. Storage space is just not, but
that's exactly what he said. You can use companies that are only interested in that thing, not anything else. Yeah. Really. So it's really interesting you said that. So I'm looking at it. Can you still thinking about it?
But what would you use it for your blog, or what?
I'd probably put everything.
Because you still use Instagram and put it there, or no? That's the whole point.
I think Instagram would be a separate service, but my website wouldn't, or any kind of blog.
Okay, but I mean, it's also worth looking at, like, how much would it cost you to have your own space because this is only purely a cost. You don't make any money from it.
No, that's true. But if having my own website and my own domain and my own stuff costs a little bit anyway. So,
because I have server space for my website, but it's also a hassle to maintain.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, a friend of mine does it. It's on a shared server space. I think it's too slow, and I think part of it is down to the server space. Part of it is down to my website that's messed up.
Oh,
I've been wondering about moving to a hosted service to not have to worry about all this stuff, and a couple of developer friends told me to do that, just because they were like, just don't worry about all this stuff, just pay the subscription, it's easier.
Yeah. And so do you see, where's your website? How do you manage your website at the moment?
It's hosted with Bluehost on a shared service space with my other friend James, who used to develop websites and still has, like, a server subscription. So I pay him, and I'm part of his. I'm hosted on his server.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And I'm on a WordPress.org, which is the free hosting, the free setup solution. So in exchange for being free, but then you should, which I don't, of course, put a lot more work into maintaining it, making sure it's up to date, making sure you don't have any issues, which I never do. And, like, I've completely given up on updating my website, and I really need to do something about it. But then there's a whole other thing saying, well, why do I even need a website? But I still like the idea of having my independent presence, rather than not being seen on LinkedIn or whatever. But if I don't maintain it, then it's not worth, I don't know. Anyway.
Scaling back, possibly saving some money that way.
My solution doesn't cost me a lot, but it would cost me more to move it to a hosted solution. But then that's part of the reason I haven't done it. It's partly because this costs me money, and partly because then I have to think about how I'm organizing it. And think about how I'm organizing it, for example, is right now my website is multilingual. It's French and English. And it doesn't cost me anything for it to be French and English.
Oh,
but
right. Okay.
With another solution, it might be considered to be 2 websites. Do I want to add e-commerce functionalities? Maybe one day, but not right now. But even then, the most paid solution works for one domain, but not necessarily integrating a multilingual website, which is dumb. I don't really need it, but so anyway, that's forced me to. That's the beginning of questions that I've spent time in the past looking at them, but I've stopped. Then I was like, I was just stuck and going, just leave it. I don't want to take care of it, which is, not good to have not taken care of it, but
This kind of does go back to something we were talking about before we went live, which is about when you sent me that article about Notion and how there's a massive subreddit of people who were just like Notion people. They really
Yeah,
are.
the thing that I only read the
people
beginning
out
of the
there
article,
for
but
anything.
it seemed to be about organizing your life through Notion.
It did. It was.
But I thought it was interesting because I was like, yeah, I organize my life. I mean, I use Roam and I watch productivity, and we've talked about productivity people that it's not just your work. As I organize, and I have lists of the movies I watch, the video games I play.
Well, that is what he said. That's what it says in the article. This guy uses Notion to books, movies, keeps a record of everything in it. But I think what the article was saying was the idea that you can an application or something that's designed for work that you can use in your personal life seems a bit weird to people, where it's not even vaguely weird to me.
No, me neither. But I think, it's actually, I was surprised by the beginning. I was like, that is weird to people. I think, yes, but I think that's why most people I meet, I don't find very interesting. But the people I find interesting are the weird outliers who are fascinated about. They're the geeks. They're the people who put a lot of time out of their work into something that is interesting. Anybody else, mostly, I'm kind of like not a bit bored talking to.
Oh, and this started because I shared on one of our WhatsApp groups the Wes Anderson Star Wars trailer. The amount of times was put into that is ridiculous.
Yes.
There's fans out there.
I love it. There's fans and geeks out there doing fantastic things.
Or maybe we are with the creative sessions.
Yeah, I don't know about that because we decided that we're not going to spend any time doing it. We're just talking rather than actually realizing anything.
That's okay.
I have a lot of talk, but I don't have a lot of time to actually do things.
I do think that if you did put all that effort or put in the required effort to clear up your website, I think it would clear your head quite a lot and give you a space to create.
Probably true. But then, so another reason I stopped myself is which I did spend more time on this week, which is on what do I want to do with the website? Do I want to keep doing what I'm doing? What do I want to do with my career? Those are all, I mean,
big
of course,
questions.
they're excuses for not taking care of my website. But yeah.
Well, there's still big questions.
No, they are, but then I'm like, okay, well, actually, do I get any business out of France? Is it worth having a website in French? Maybe I shouldn't bother at all. And I don't need the French version. I can simplify it. But I am still in France. I don't know. I have no answers to those because I have a lot of uncertainty. Now, I tend to delve in uncertainty and to use the confusion as an excuse to not do things, for sure. For sure. But you're right. I should clarify and reorganize my website for sure. And I think I just have to break it down, save the database, break it down and start over again, which is what I did last time.
You've got a lot of posts, haven't you?
I do, and I reviewed them 4 years ago when I changed the website. But a lot of it is just not very interesting. I thought about curating them and just keeping only the interesting ones. Or I also thought about splitting things out, work and not work, and have my willemvdh.com for travel, blogging, and all sorts of personal stuff, and the ice cream for everyone, keep it professional. I'm not sure. That's another idea.
That sounds easier to put together. Two separate things.
Possibly.
Or maintain.
And just simplify the thing so that it looks more like yours or like a blog. But then the question is, on a blog, can I organize it in such a way that you can navigate or presence things? Because most of them are not organized in like that. Or it doesn't matter, and I just do a new. I don't know. So yeah, I do have to put some things together on what I'm doing with that.
Well, I want to see. Yeah. I'm interested to see. Now, the thing you did want to talk about was you started reading Tim Urban's book.
Yeah, and being sick, I spent some time. So I'm on Dungeons and Dragons on one hand, rereading it. I'm excited to play again. My nieces saw the movie and loved it, so they're up for playing now.
Oh, wow. That's great.
Yeah, it's cool. So possibly next year, if or when we go skiing with my brother, we might play some Dungeons and Dragons, which would be cool.
The new generation coming through. I like it.
And I have my regular game, which is cool. And I started reading the Tim Urban, the book is called What's Our Problem? A Self-Help Book for Societies.
And you mentioned originally that it started as a whole bunch of blog posts that he expanded into a book.
Yeah, he started, so the rabbit hole, and he wrote a post explaining this. So I'm paraphrasing his post, right?
Yeah.
Tim Urban's posts, which for anybody not listening, not watching from the blog Wait But Why. That made you
laugh. Yeah. Almost as good as the electric radiator. So for anybody not listening and not watching, Tim Urban, Wait But Why, Procrastination Monster, TED Talk, very good.
Exactly.
Very funny.
Yeah. And so he wrote a post that I got as an email for the publication of the book. 6 years ago, he dove down a rabbit hole that was started out with, what's our problem, as in
humanity
seems to be in America, and the whole of humanity seems more divided than ever. There's a lot of things going on that don't seem to be going in the right direction. What's happening? And he started researching. So he started reading books of every walk of you could imagine. So history, economics, politics, philosophy, sociology, a bunch of references. And what he thought was going to take him a couple of months to really write a long post took him 3 years. And in 2020, so he started that in
2017, right?
2017, started publishing the posts that he had worked out together under a series of long posts called The Story of Us that I started reading.
Okay, yeah.
But he got lost in the publication of those long posts because each post was longer than the previous one. And then it was the pandemic, and then he was like, okay, just in short, he went back to the drawing board. So the posts that are published as The Story of Us are incomplete.
Okay.
And there's like 9 out of 20.
Oh.
And they're long. They're really long. The first one takes like 20, 30 minutes to read, and then they're longer than that.
Did you read all 9 of them, or did you just
No. I read 2, I think, or 3. Which was interesting. But anyway, so he was like, oh, this is a mess. I need to go back to the drawing board. It's going to take me just a few months to reorganize. 3 years later. And also he had a baby in the meantime. Or his couple, whatever. So reorganized everything. It took him 3 years. So in total 6 years to organize. This is like the biggest project he's ever undertaken. It's huge. And just published recently, a couple of months ago, we mentioned it briefly.
We did.
This book that I read the post and I got it as an email, and I was like, yep, pre-order immediately. So I got downloaded to my Kindle immediately.
When it speaks to us, yeah, instantly.
Well, I know that Tim Urban, I want to read what he's got. I mean, I had started reading the whole thing last time. So he's reorganized what he's gotten. And he starts with explaining, what he came up with as a framework to talk through the whole societal things that he's going to talk about in the book.
Okay.
I'm only at the beginning.
Yeah.
So the beginning of the book is where he creates, in the same way that you got the monkey and the procrastination monkey and the whatever, I can't remember the shit.
No, it's a procrastination monster, I'm pretty sure. And
but who's the monkey again? The monkey is
the monkey's like, give me it now. I can't remember what he calls it. He calls it something cool, but
yeah. So anyhow,
with his illustrations,
it's the same way with illustrations of explaining things, and the explanation starts with the evolution. So the book starts with the evolution of humanity, and he does it in squares, as he likes doing.
Oh, I keep meaning to buy. I want the whole life thing. I'm coloring all the dots. I want one of those.
It's a good idea. I think I would be like a little bit
depressed.
Depressed that the first thing you do when you put the board up is like blacken out your whole life, which is like, all right, well, that's half of it done.
Well, I'm planning on sticking around till I'm 100. So, and having a good life.
Okay. Sure. It's very interesting. This is not a thought I have at all.
Isn't it? Oh, okay, fine. Maybe it's because
I'm planning on having a good life and sticking around, but I didn't think like 100.
That's well,
and I know I see my grandfather at 100. I'm like, maybe.
Oh wow. I didn't know. Did I know that? You probably did.
Yeah, he turned
Anyway.
100 last year, and he can't move anymore. And he's, he's always been a curmudgeon, so that's not going to be any better. But
well, yeah, we could be curmudgeons in our 70s doing.
I would hope
creative
that
sessions.
I would hope that I would be a nice person, but I think I would because I am now. So hopefully, I still will be.
What, a curmudgeon or a nice person?
No, a nice person. My grandfather's never been a nice person. I mean, I don't know about never, but in my lifetime, anyway.
I just like that word, curmudgeon. It's a good word.
It's a good word.
It's a great word. It's like codswallop.
Codswallop's a good word. So anyhow, he made well, the tapestry is okay. Human beings have been around for, I can't remember, like however many hundreds of thousands of years.
Mm-hmm.
And each square is 250 years of the history of humanity.
Okay.
And only the last 10 are agricultural revolution, industrial revolution, and now. And you're like, well, so for hundreds of thousands of years we were hunter-gatherers, and then things accelerated suddenly.
Basically, yeah.
That's his way to visualize the thing about our reptilian brain and everything we've got.
That's pretty scary. Just thinking about what you just said.
Sure. Yeah.
Like when you say that, I do think, who are we to be so arrogant all the time as human beings?
Oh my God, yeah.
Oh dear. And at the same time, like, well, it doesn't have to be this massive deal. Life will find a way. Life finds a way.
Well, life will, but we might not.
Yeah, that's true.
That's the thing. We are entirely, it's possible for ourselves to destroy ourselves, and civilizations have done it before.
Yep.
To themselves or to one another, for sure, a bunch of times. And we might do it again. So that's what he talks about. Then he goes into a thing about the higher mind. So he creates a concept called the ladder.
Mm-hmm.
And the ladder's got splits out between us human beings as higher mind, cortex, scientific, thinking about things, or lower mind, lower brain, fight or flight, grouping up together to prove or disprove things. Anyway, it's worth diving into. I'm really liking it. But another interesting thing, it just reminds me of a couple of books that the smartest people are the most likely to be disposed to know this French. They're the most likely to have confirmation bias.
And
it's not so anyway. So he's talking about viewpoints that we have in terms of political beliefs, etc. And he talks about it from the perspective of individual cells, then going all the way up to societies, individual people.
Wow,
creatures, humans.
That is interesting.
It's super interesting. I love his way of thinking. And his thing is, okay, so if a bunch of people gather together as higher minds, we'll call that a genie, and this is some of the best of society, and we'll call that an idea lab. So it's like the best of minds coming together to discuss things, create scientific hypotheses, debate, etc. Or on the lower rungs of the primitive mind, then which is what's been happening for most of time, because like out in nature there is no such rule called, well, but let's talk and debate about things. It's if I can
survive,
it's just survival. So if I have the power to do it, I'll do it, or if I am to survive. So then there's a drawing of a bear eating a rabbit. And it's like, right? Well, the bear, if he wants, can eat the rabbit, unless the rabbit runs fast enough to escape the bear.
But they won't sit around and have a debate about whether the bear is going to get away from the rabbit.
Human beings might.
Yeah, human beings will.
But just as likely, for many, many, many long years, societies were put together as lower rung, which is about like grouping up together for survival. And while the higher mind genie is really great for putting new ideas, developing new technologies, putting new things together for better life for everyone, the role of the golem, which is the lower rung societal thing, is to be a badass, as strong.
Yeah.
And to go, and then he talks about Genghis Khan for a bit as an example of or other. It's funny. There's some things where he's like, yeah, there's not necessarily any immediate utility to me drawing this as a stick figure cartoon, but I really wanted to tell about this story. In like 1200 something, the Pope calls one of his nobles and says, well, do you know all about these heathens that are destroying and killing all the people far out east? Yeah, I've heard about them. Great. Well, I'd like you to go see them and check out what their deal is. What their deal is? Yeah, just check them out. Oh, and give them this letter. It's a letter where I tell them to fuck off. But they won't be very happy about this. No, I guess not. All right, bye. So he goes to Mongolia, all the way to Mongolia, way before Marco Polo goes to China, and spends 4 months with Genghis Khan. And this dude was 65 years old in 1250 to go and find out about
who is this guy? Wow.
So he found some amazing like historical references, and that was his introduction to talk about, well, the golems. The golems are the lower minds, lower rung association of societies that are there to fight and flight. I mean, they're there to, we put ourselves together to survive. But what works in the survival is obedience, but core beliefs, not challenging any ideas, but conforming, all that kind of jazz. Anyway, so and then he talks about, so I'm just at the beginning where he's just putting definitions to terms and a bit of history, and then he's going to go into what's going on in society.
It almost sounds like
it's quite a long book too.
It's
almost as long as the book about debt from David Graeber. But it's much easier to read. I mean, the book about debt is quite.
Did you read that? Did you finish reading it?
Nowhere near. I just started reading again this weekend. I was full on like obsessed with my video game that I finished, Triangle Strategy, and I bought new video games, but nowhere near as intense as this one. And I was disappointed because I found out that I couldn't get to the real ending of the game. The game has 4 different endings, and one is considered to be like the true one. Because that's this change of topic to Triangle Strategy, which is actually funny enough. Low rung, it's war. It's horrible. I mean, but the scenario is really good. I mean, I ended up playing 93 hours of this thing. That's quite a long hour count.
That's quite long.
But yeah, so you have all these moral decisions in the game to take you on different pathways and different scenes, different battles, etc. And they're based in the idea that you've got 3 meters called morality, utility, and liberty.
Oh, you did. Yeah, you did kind of mention this. Yeah.
So usually, anyway, and I finished the game, and it's kind of leaves you with a bitter taste in mouth because there's consequences of stuff happening that I just didn't plan. I just took the route that seemed to be the best, knowing that the 3 available were crap. They were all bad. But the 2 others seemed to be bad from the outset, whereas the third seemed to be more like the thing to do anyway, even though it was not ideal.
And it's probably designed that way, right?
Oh yeah, completely. And it's designed so it turns out that of course you couldn't have known, but it would have been difficult to find out that there's a 4th possibility if you fill in certain conditions during the whole playthrough of the game.
Of course.
And so I checked, was like, wait, so what did I miss that I didn't have this thing? And I knew, because I'd looked briefly, but I was like, no, I don't want to look at the solutions. I knew there was something called the golden route, which was the route to this end, but I didn't know the details. And I looked it up, and I saw there was one thing. There's only one thing I didn't do, but I would have had to go back to like the first third of the game, almost near the beginning. And I was like, I'm not going to do that.
But you had all the other bits. You just missed one thing.
Yeah, but I couldn't have. I mean, I couldn't have known. I couldn't have known. Even though it's a really horrible thing to have done, it seemed like the right thing to do at the time.
Do you think that they designed it that way? It must have been designed.
Well, yeah, of course it was designed that way. Yeah, for sure.
So you mean there are people? So okay,
I can tell you and spoil it a tiny bit for people.
well, this is the question I want to ask you.
Okay.
Do you mean to say that somebody played that game enough to discover that there were 4 different routes and to discover,
You're
4 different
surprising
endings?
me.
Sorry.
You do know that you do know that people do that. We just talked about like how people spend a lot
I
of time
know.
doing Wes Anderson things. Not only that, but people who do that also for a living. There's all the solutions out for all the video games. How do you think that happens? As soon as the game is out, you will find the full playthroughs. You will find all that jazz.
How do they do it?
There's people who do that all day.
That
That's their job. There's people who do that for the living.
I think I just can't comprehend being that good at a computer game.
Oh no, I can't. Did you ever look at speed playing through video games on YouTube? It's driving you nuts. Like I'm sure there's people who did the full video game. Anyway, it's worth checking out. Like you look at Super Mario playthrough.
I've seen a couple of Super Mario ones. I've only speed run is a term that has now appeared in the vernacular of all the teenagers. And one of my students did say, "Can you just speed run this topic so we can finish it?" This was a few months ago before the exam. Just speed run it. I'm like, okay, fine. Hands up if you want me to speed run this topic. And like 3/4 of the class put their hand up. I was like, fine, okay, here we go. Get ready. And like, who's that? There's some YouTuber who does speed runs of Minecraft. One of my classes were obsessed with for a while.
About that,
yeah. I'm just like, oh wow, it's a different world. Different world.
Yeah.
Maybe one day.
Here we are talking about our retainers.
Well, I was playing Dead Cells on, and I know I only ever played it on screen, like connected to the big screen. I actually played it handheld mode, and I was like, this is actually a lot of fun. I could just sit here and play this for a long time.
Yeah.
If my wife wasn't sitting next to me, if my wife wasn't sitting next to me saying choose a film or we're going to watch The Mandalorian, I would have played it for hours.
Oh, did you watch it? I just watched the 3rd season.
Yeah, we watched it as well.
Did you like it? I'm still very ambivalent about this show. I find it very watchable, but it's great because I don't feel like I need to watch a 2nd episode in one sitting.
I really like it.
It's okay. I found even more so. I thought this for every season, but even this one even more.
Yeah,
I was like, this is kind of like a documentary. It feels like a documentary tour of the Star Wars world through the eyes of these characters. But I don't know what's going on anymore. I know what's going on, but I don't feel all that interested about what's at stake for people.
Right.
Which I felt, and I did see some headlines saying that they were a bit lost in this season. But I was like, it's kind of going, all right, we're following this guy's life now, which is cool. Why not?
We finished The Mandalorian, but then we watched we'd already watched one episode of Obi-Wan and we watched episode 2.
Oh yeah, I didn't watch Obi-Wan. I watched the first episode and I didn't like it.
I liked it, but it was definitely exposition, definitely slow and and then I kept thinking about the whole I want to rewatch episode 4 again. And then episode 2 was unexpectedly dark. I was like, okay, I wasn't expecting that at all. And so I kind of want to see where it goes. Yeah,
apparently they're going to do a 2nd season, I think.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
And I haven't seen Andor either.
I've only heard really good things about Andor.
I've heard good things, yeah. I guess I'll get around to watch it, but I've been making more effort at playing video games and watching movies rather than TV shows. So I did watch The Mandalorian as a TV show, but
what other films have you watched? Do you mean like in the cinema, or you do mean in the cinema?
Both. No, cinema and at home. On Friday we watched. Yesterday we watched The Game that I hadn't seen in a very long time. David Fincher with Michael Douglas. And,
I know about that. And little side note. I don't know how this started at my school, but there's it's partly me. but there's definitely other teachers. You know that whole thing about if you think about the game, you lost the game, and you have to say you lost the game.
Of course, I hadn't thought about that in a while, but now I did.
Yeah, exactly. Which means we lost the game.
Yep.
I walk across. I can't walk anywhere without someone saying, "So I just wanted to tell you lost the game." And then the deputy head in one assembly actually.
That's a very enduring meme, isn't it? It's cross generations. Amazing.
Oh, it has cross generations. It was about 5 or 6 years ago. The deputy head in an assembly told me specifically, in front of the entire school that I lost the game.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, in Latin because he's an English teacher. So ridiculous. So it does spawn and keep going. I don't know why this one's kept going. It just has.
I really don't know. And it's funny enough, it's one that kept going. That's not. I'm sure there's got to be iterations on social media and the internet, but I haven't seen that many there.
No, it just.
But it continues in oral tradition and culture.
I think it is one of those interesting things that it only happens in language. But the other one, of course, that's still going is this one. You know that one?
What's that? I don't know that.
Yeah, if you hold that below your waist and someone looks, then you can hit them 5 times or hit them once. Do you not know what I'm talking about here?
No,
this is so stupid.
I think that's probably English.
So it was
this international or not.
Well, you say this, but this was around when I was 16, 17. And they know it now. And also, I think it might be American. I think it's in America they talk about it. So of course that symbol has a lot of other connotations, but that's one of those things that still keeps going. So yeah, that was a sidebar about the game. So you watched the game, the film. I've never seen it.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, it's on. I don't know about the UK, but it's on Netflix in France, and apparently it's going off Netflix in 2 weeks. Which is not even why we watched it, but if you've not seen it, it's worth watching. It's really good.
I think I know the premise. Isn't it? Is some guy, his brother buys him something, and it's a game.
Yeah.
Is it like Saw before Saw? But
no.
Oh, okay.
I don't think it is. No. Well, I mean, yes, but as a no, because it's not a horror movie.
Oh, okay.
It's very tense. It's a thriller,
and
it's worth watching. I think it's really good. It still holds up too, pretty much. I think it's probably lost some of its thing because there's a bunch of other movies that probably built on the same kinds of ideas. But it's definitely worth watching.
Was it before 7?
I'm trying to remember if it was before 7. It's 97. So I don't think it was. It might have been.
I think that's after 7.
I think it was the movie he made after 7.
Because I like his stuff.
And on Friday we watched You People, the Netflix movie with Jonah Hill, Eddie Murphy, and bunch of other people.
I heard mixed things. Davina watched that. She wasn't that impressed. I don't even think she finished it.
I don't think I finished it just for the sake of it. It was bad. It's sadly bad. Just cringeworthy for the sake of cringeworthy. There's a couple of vaguely interesting lines. The reviews were pretty bad, and I agree with the reviews. I didn't like the movie. It's not great.
And you watched Ruse de Guerre.
Yeah. We talked about that last week, didn't we?
Yeah, well, a little bit, but I didn't know that Ruse de Guerre, Game of War, was an actual phrase. I'd never heard that idiom before.
Oh, I didn't know.
It's a whole thing.
I did not know that was a whole thing. It seems to be. So I'm guessing it's military vernacular that I'm not used to.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's my guess. I don't know.
Or strategic, some kind of strategic thing.
Yeah, maybe it's. I don't know.
But the film, we have watched other films. Maybe we'll go and see Air today. Although I want to see Dungeons and Dragons, or maybe she'll go and see Air, and I'll go see. Dungeons and Dragons.
Air. All right, cool. Yeah, I'd quite like to go to see Air. It seems to be a good movie. I'd like to see the Tetris movie. That looks pretty crazy.
So that's
as true stories go, it looks completely insane compared to Air. So it looks good too, but
it's an Apple one, isn't it? You can only see it on Apple, whatever.
Is it? I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Maybe.
Because one
I
of
saw the
Davina's,
trailer on YouTube, so I don't know. I don't know where it is, where it's made or whatever.
one of Davina's friends was talking about it and said it was really good. Really, really like not documentary, but like that kind of vibe and really interesting.
Yeah. So Air looks really good, but of course I couldn't help but think of No Logo and talking about Nike.
Yeah.
A whole movie reinforcing the
Yeah.
culture and the status of the brand and all that jazz, which I'm like, oh, okay. Well, I'm sure it's good though.
Well, don't you think the founder did that for McDonald's?
Yeah.
And I thought that was a good movie.
Yeah,
that was a
I
good
thought it was
film.
a good movie. I agree. Yeah, I agree. I still have the same feelings about it.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
I'm sure Air would be good, but it depends what you're feeling like. I mean, I think Davina would enjoy Dungeons and Dragons too.
I'm going to use
like,
that
there's so much
to persuade her.
I don't know if it'll work or whether she. I don't know that Davina has any esteem for my recommendations or movie choices.
Yes, she does.
We haven't really talked in a while, so I don't know what she thinks of.
Well, I know she thinks highly of you because I think highly of you, and I think you help keep me sane, so that's fine.
So I think it depends. Also,
there was a compliment in there that you.
Oh,
I hope you got.
Sorry, no, I did get it. I'm sorry. Yes,
okay.
Thank you very much.
Just want to check you got it.
Thank you. Sorry, I got it. Thank you. What was I wanting to say? Oh yeah,
Films.
Depends if you want to see a true story or not, or a romanticized true story. Air.
This is never true.
No, it's not. But it is like, oh, these are real people, real situations. So you end up believing that it's true, but it's fantasy anyway.
Like The Social Network, which is
or actual fantasy, just doesn't pretend to be anything else.
Good point. Very good point. Do we want pure escapism or do you want pretend escapism?
Yeah, that's one I would use, and certainly. There's a bit of like how complicated everything is. I don't know if you guys experienced this, but looking at politics in France certainly, and in the US and state of society, and there's a lot of depressing things going on. So
I know
Dragons feels great to go see it because it works. It's well done.
I do agree with you. There's a lot of depressing stuff which I think about a lot, and I'm like, I can't even bother doing anything. I'm just going to go eat chocolate.
I talked about that with Saskia. So there are villages in the south of France, literally right next to my sister, where they've cut the water. I told you that.
Yeah, you told me that. Yeah.
So anyway,
I find that quite scary because the weather's got a lot better here.
Well, I know it's raining. Out. It's been raining in Paris, but that doesn't mean it's any better in the south of France. I don't know. We'll see.
There is a really cool English indie film called Rye Lane.
Okay.
All about it's a romantic comedy, two people who meet. I don't want to tell you much, but it's an uplifting, easy watch that's very funny. It's they're a bit younger, so the generation is kind of like 20s, maybe mid-20s. But a lot of the things in it, I was like, it was such a great film to watch.
Oh, cool.
Really, really good film. And I think because it's set in South London, I was a bit like, okay, this feels relatable. Yeah, and at the same time, it didn't go all Hollywood. It didn't go all silly. It was just well scripted, two actors, mostly very good dialogue, very well put together, set in London. I think it's a really good film. It's probably one of the best films I've seen this year so far.
All right.
Really easy watch.
I took advantage of the changing slightly to another media, going back to video games. Of a spring sales on the Nintendo shop.
What did you get?
I bought 4 new games, indie games that had been on my list for a while, but that were heavily discounted, so I didn't spend a lot of money, which is great. I got Untitled Goose Game. Have you heard of that?
What the hell is that? No.
It's awesome. I only played a little bit, and they updated it for being 2 players, so I'm trying to get to my girlfriend to play as well. It's a game where you're a goose and you have a to-do list to annoy people in the village.
And that's it.
That's it.
Annoy people in the village.
So you're a goose. There's a button that makes you honk. You're like,
Yeah.
And you can just flap your wings, walk around, pick up stuff. And if you press a button, it gives you a to-do list that is basically around annoying people in the village.
So like sneaking up on people and making it and honking.
Yeah,
kind of
or
stuff.
so you start on a pond, and there's a gardener, the groundskeeper of the garden, and you can activate the sprinkler. So there's like manage to get the groundskeeper wet. So you have to organize it. You have to run around so the groundskeeper is at a certain point, and then go activate the sprinkler. There's things like that. It's very good. And the groundskeeper has keys on his belt, so you have to steal the keys. And then I discovered that there's also there's a to-do list, but there's a official to-do list and a non-official to-do list that you cross things off. But I didn't know that there was a thing to do. But I thought, okay, maybe we can do this, but I didn't do it on purpose. Which was lock
and this is just one of the games.
Yeah, this is just one of the games. Steal the keys and lock the groundskeeper out of the garden.
And this was a game that was on your list of games to buy. How the hell did you hear about this?
Because I looked at I keep in touch with what are the best indie games or strangest.
Okay. Untitled Goose Game. What else?
I got a short hike. Sorry, a short hike, which is really beautiful. I played mostly that. I'm pretty much at the end, but there's a few more things to do. It only takes a few hours, but it's a few hours of gaming for what was
quite satisfying
euros. It's great,
and it's a short hike.
It's a short hike, but you can make it as long as you want, which is the irony of it. You're a little bird character, and with your aunt on holidays at this state park, which is a mountain type island thing. And the premise was at the beginning, you're like, oh, I don't have cell service, and your aunt goes, well, you might be able to from the top of the mountain. It's only a short hike. And so you wander and meet people that give you things to do, and you're a bird, so you can glide up and down.
Okay, yeah.
And that's it. You just find your way up to the top of the mountain, and you wander around, talk to people, do a few things. There's people that get you to run errands if you want to do them. And it's kind of like, it's a little bit pixelated. It's quite beautiful. That's it. It's kind of, it has very relaxing music. It's pretty cool.
Right. Yeah.
It's pretty cool. You just like climb up, and at some point you realize you can't go, so you have to collect feathers to be able to climb further. And you just glide down and explore. It's cool.
Number 3.
Leisure Suit Larry.
Oh, that's an old title. That's an old, Leisure Suit Larry.
They revived Leisure Suit Larry a few years ago, and I got the first one of the revival. It's an old adventure game. I
can't remember the premise. Isn't he
the premise is he's a
player? No,
he's just a pervert.
Yeah.
He's like just down with the ladies, but he doesn't really actually have any success with the ladies, doing and saying a lot of outrageous things that are no longer acceptable. So now but they revived him with a game that I played a couple of years ago called Leisure Suit Larry: Wet Dreams Don't Die, or Don't Dry. I can't remember. Probably Don't Dry.
Probably Don't Dry.
And it was fun enough, and that was heavily discounted. And I read a quick review saying, the second one is pretty fun too. So it was all right, cool. And the premise of the first one is that, by an artifice that they don't really go into, but they do explore, and they're like, it makes no sense, whatever. But he was frozen into some kind of time machine and brought back from the 80s to today. So he has to make his way around to learn that what he's saying is no longer socially acceptable. And he finds himself embroiled in a conspiracy with an evil corporation called Prune. Not Apple, Prune.
Yeah.
And of course, everything is phallus shaped.
Yes.
Including the Prune headquarters.
Yeah.
And he has a pie phone, and the pie phone, anyway, this whatever. But he falls in love with one of the characters, of course, that he absolutely. Yep. Oh yeah, and that's one of the main driving threads. Is that he has to get 5 stars on the dating app. So you meet people through the dating app trying to get 5-star who give you errands because the person he's fell in love with said, well, come back when you have 5-star on the Pinder app or whatever it's called.
God.
It's ridiculous. Of course, it's completely ridiculous. Passes the time. There's completely silly drawings, silly situations, silly riddles. So I got the second one. And the second one starts off where the first one left.
That's quite
ended. And and then I got another one that just started yesterday that has been on my list for a while. Apparently it's a puzzle / story game that is very original.
Okay.
I don't even know how I could describe it because I watched a video saying that from a guy saying I don't know how I can really do the game justice by describing it. And he said I had the same experience from other people saying it's a great game, but I can't describe it properly.
What's it called?
Gorogoa.
That doesn't even say anything about
No, it doesn't say anything.
But it sounds like my kind of game.
I think you would like it a lot. It's so as far as I can explain, you start with a square, and then the square goes into there's 4 frames.
Yeah.
And there seems to be puzzles happening and a story. There's some kind of thing going on with a character. It's very difficult to explain. But you zoom in on the photo, and then a new thing comes into detail, and then you move the tile over, and it merges. So, for example, there was one photo I could click and zoom in.
Yeah.
And then zoomed in, I would see a door. And then another frame, I saw the character that you're kind of following that has a door open. And so I moved one tile over another, and suddenly the character could go through the door into the other scene, if that makes sense. It's very intriguing, but I have no idea how it works because they don't give you an explanation. So you're kind of just playing around where you can.
Yeah.
Sometimes they say press B, and you're like, okay, well, I don't understand what's happening, but it's very intriguing. I'm like, but it was also too much for me yesterday. But while sick, I was like, okay, this is. Even though the Tim Urban is nonfiction and dealing with quite lofty topics, the fact how he simplifies everything meant that I could still
his
read
style
yesterday.
makes it easy. Yeah.
Whereas the puzzle game, I was like, this seems awesome, but I can't play more than a few minutes. I can't figure it out.
So I found out the name of the game that those pupils were talking about like months ago when we spoke. It's called Break Arts 2.
Break Arts 2? Okay.
Yes. And the way they were explaining it to me is that you build a car and you program it, or robot, with different features, and then you have to duel or fight or something or survive. And there's multiple ways of being able to set up your particular thing.
Wow, it looks like nothing. They're robots.
Yeah.
Oh, like they're mechas.
And you have to set up.
But in the race picture, I'm looking at a screenshot.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like anything. It looks like a bunch of lines. That's it.
Well, that's kind of what they were telling me. So I was super confused by it. But there's a whole group of, they're definitely the nerdy ones, definitely at school, who
those are the ones you interact with them.
I
you interact with everybody, of course.
I interact with everybody, but there's a couple. One of them who told me about the game, the one who told me about the game applied to Cambridge to do maths and further maths or something.
I think he
didn't get in, but he's super into that game. And there's another one who wants to do computer science at Warwick, who's just like, oh my god. These are the same guys, and given that we have so many fans who are not watching us, I can say this. These are the same guys who apparently talk about hentai quite a lot. Which, go figure.
Well, yeah.
Although they were surprised I knew what hentai was.
They were surprised?
Yeah.
Young teenage boys are funny.
They are. There were some of them were surprised I knew what Rule 34 was.
Which one?
Rule 34.
I'm not sure I know what that is.
So do you know what 4chan is?
Yes.
So Rule 34 on 4chan was, if it exists, there's porn of it.
Oh, okay, yeah. I knew the rule, but I didn't know it was Rule 34 in 4chan.
Yeah, apparently it is. Now, I've never used 4chan, and I don't know how
I did
heard
a
about
tiny bit a long time ago. I am still on the 4chan subreddit, and all it does is just screenshots of some kind of like, I consider it to be a best of 4chan.
Oh,
I
right,
don't know who
see. Okay.
decides to post what, but so I get just like dips and drabs from 4chan from like that, which is fine enough for me. And sometimes you're like, wow, this is so ridiculous, but other than
Yeah, it's completely ridiculous. There's a subreddit for 4chan. Well, I mean, it's not ridiculous. It's just, well, anyway, it's ridiculous. We'll leave it at that. But they're always surprised. Like, I don't know why they were surprised, but it's that group of people, because there isn't another group of students who would be talking about break arts 2, computer games, high-level computational maths, and hentai.
But it's also kind of weird that you'd be talking about hentai with your teacher. I did not talk about hentai with my teachers in high school.
Well, when did
I don't know about this as maybe modern times, but I didn't talk about my porn habits with my teachers.
What actually happened was that another people said that all they talk about is hentai. I'm like, why are you talking about that?
Yes, I think that's a fair question.
To the people. And then the people said to me, how do you know what that is? I'm like, well, because I do. And then I went to that group of peoples and said, apparently you guys just sit around watching hentai. And they went, who told you that? I said, so you're not going to deny it? It's like, honestly, it is like a setup. Sometimes being a teacher is like being in a sitcom. It's so stupid. And it's so predictable. The bits are so predictable that the lines repeat themselves.
Oh, yeah.
It's very, very
I would imagine in 20 years, from one year after another, the number of pupils would repeat the same thing and then be surprised. You're like, yeah, this is not my first year, so I'm kind of
it's true. You do. And then you can see why the stereotypical shows about schools endure and then get rebooted. And it's because you do have the stereotypes of all the different kinds of pupils. It is that way. It's a very simple way of navigating the social sphere. It is. And then being able to just throw curveballs every so often is good fun.
That is kind of funny. Kind of edgy to go to them to talk about, like, you guys watch hentai all day, probably.
Maybe
it's not exactly how it happens. I don't know, but
it's not quite how it happened, but yeah. It's assuming that I know about it. That's the thing. But they are definitely ready to leave. Exams are coming. Exam season started,
the end of the year,
and they're very stressed. They have.
So you were talking about applications. Are they in the middle of their university applications being accepted or rejected? Or how does that work?
That's all done, and they've got a list of acceptances and rejections, and they have to pick the one that there's their main one. Okay. And now it's just about exams. They're 18-year-olds with the resilience of 15-year-olds, because they never sat exams when they were 15, 16. So there's loads of conflicting emotions. Normally, well, because of COVID, that's right, they would have all sat exams at age 15, 16. So by the time they're doing the higher exams to get to university, they're used to, I got to work really hard for this thing.
Yeah.
And they're not. So there's every single emotion you could possibly think of expressed in a teenager is all happening all at once. So the school's a bit wobbly at the moment. So I'm glad it's a bank holiday and I've got time to write some reports.
Well, I'm sick again. I can't believe it. I was sick 2 weeks ago and not as feverish. Yeah, and I finished a bunch of projects, and this week I was back on like looking for new ones, but I really need to kick it up a notch in terms of new business emails and development. I have one lead that showed up this week, but I need more stuff. I'm finishing a class, but that's all I have. I don't have enough work for May, June, July, nothing. I do have a tiny bit, but
and it's pretty quiet, you said, as summer comes in France.
Yeah, it depends really. I mean, definitely August is dead, so usually I can get work up to July, but it's the usual thing. I don't, as usual, I didn't really keep my pipeline filled for stuff, and that's not always, but that's still the
Feast and famine of a freelancer.
The feast and famine of a freelancer, and also my lack of just interest in doing stuff. But the conversation we had last week put me back on a good track of thinking of new series and writing, so that's good. I could have taken more actions in terms of sending emails and stuff, but I did send a few. But yeah, just I guess it is an excuse, but yeah, I do get stopped by, well, I don't. I also noticed that I see, because that's what I see when I open LinkedIn and what LinkedIn serves to me, which of course is the danger of believing what social media feeds you, but that's all you can because you don't see anything else. And I noticed I have a lot of stuff from peers who are doing the same thing I'm doing pretty much and posting, I think, interesting things or consistent things. I'm like, oh, they're doing it right. I started commenting, but then I was like, but I like what they have to say. I think it's interesting. Whether I disagree or agree, it doesn't matter. I feel I should be doing more of what they're doing. But I was also like, but it serves me nothing to see what they're posting, and to interact or comment on their posts because they're my peers. They're not the people I want business from.
That's a good point.
So I was like, actually spending too much time on this is not necessarily productive. I don't need the recognition of my peers. I need new clients. So I don't know. I only had the beginning of a question on that one. I was talking about it with somebody else. But
there might be something for. Are you around next week? I think you said you were not.
No, yeah.
Oh, you are? Okay. So I think we should wrap it up.
Yeah, we should. Yeah, it's like.
But I'm just checking next week. Yeah, that'll be cool. We'll talk a bit more about writing.
Yeah, for sure.
Maybe
I'll get back to my short story as well.
Oh yeah. Yeah, very good. And
I didn't write this week. I tried because I tried aqua biking this week. Or aqua cycling. I don't know how you say it.
So that's okay.
I didn't even talk about that. Yeah, that was interesting. It's like fitness. I silly enough, rookie's mistake, did not drink lots of water afterwards, and I had sore legs the whole week. Yeah, and I did a bit of a tough yoga class on Thursday, but it was good though. But yeah, the aqua biking was surprisingly difficult, and I had a bit of an intense instructor, but it was good though. I think I'd go back. I'm not sure I'd go every week because it's a bit scary in terms of intensity. But
are you using ClassPass? Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really good. Davine,
it's pricey compared to a gym membership, I think.
But you can pick and choose whatever the hell you want, can't you?
Yeah, and I didn't go for a few weeks, so I accumulated credits. So I could go 2 weeks, 2 times a week. But basically, my normal credit line allows me to kind of do one thing a week. But because I didn't go for a couple of weeks while I was on holidays, I'm back at twice a week doing things. And the studios I have access to are really good, so they're a bit pricier, but they're very good.
And how many? Okay, and in preparation for next week, so we'll talk about aquabike.
Yes.
Well, maybe some other stuff. I think I might like to talk about songwriting and poetry.
Oh yeah, sure.
Because that's something that came up this week. And how many posts are you can do this week? You can do
2.
Anything? 2 posts this week. 1 French, 1 English.
1 French, 1 English.
Very cool.
And I think I should keep them as posts. The first one I ended up writing an article, but I think people don't really read them. I don't know. I don't know what works, and I thought I'm probably not doing that. And LinkedIn lowered their organic reach, just like Facebook used to. Anyway,
yeah, they did.
I don't know. I have to get back to something a little bit more old school on contacting clients. I'm not sure what though. Anyway, cool. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right. Bye.